Good morning, class. I hope that you're all well and staying safe. This is our first video for the online adaptation of our honors seminar course, and this video will be all about character. In today's video, I will be reviewing some of the most important elements from chapter 4 in our book, Imaginative Writing, so that you have a better understanding of how to write and read for character. Just to keep you entertained, I have up on the screen various pictures of George Costanza from Seinfeld. He is probably one of the most recognizable and beloved characters in American television from the last 30 years, and so it seemed only fitting to have him up on the screen. To begin, you should know that for most of us, we are going to be representing characters directly. And by directly, I mean that we have to demonstrate certain traits of a character by using image, voice, action, or thought. In your short stories or essays, I want you to try to write a character directly rather than indirectly. Indirectly refers to fleshing out a character by telling me things about that character, rather than actually having the character do things or say things that flesh out the character for us. The most important thing about producing characters for stories, poems, or essays is to have a good understanding of what characters want. If your character does not want anything, then your character is going to remain flat or boring to the reader. We are most interested as readers in characters who want something or someone, and often a whole plot point centers around whether or not our characters can get what they want. If your characters do not desire, or if it's unclear to the reader what your characters desire, then these characters will not pop off the page, so to speak. So that is the most important concept when it comes to writing and reading for character, is determining what characters want. The other elements of successful character building include character as image, character as voice, and character as action. For this week, I've asked you to read 3 texts. One is a short story, one is a poem, and the other is a poem. As far as character as image, Ols's poem, really actually a breathtaking poem about her father as a stone carver, this can be found on page 128 of your book, is an excellent example of rendering character through image. I'll read the poem and then just isolate those moments that I think are especially adept at rendering character through image. Stone Carver by Carol Simmons Olds, for father. Don't look at his hands now, stiff and swollen, small finger curled in like a hermit, needing someone to open the ketchup, an hour to shave. That hand held the mallet, made the marble say Cicero, Juno, and Laurel. Don't think of his eyes behind thick lenses squinting at headlines, his breath drowning in stone dust and camels, his sparrow legs. Think of the one who slid 3 floors down scaffolding ropes every lunchtime, who stood up to Donnelly the foreman for more time to take care. Keep him the man in the photo, straight-backed on the park bench in Washington, holding hands with your mother. Keep his hands holding calipers, patterns, and pointer, bringing the mallet down fair on the chisel, your father's hands sweeping off the dust. As I said, a really remarkable poem, and a poem that renders character through image. The poem is really addressing, it's a poem about mourning, and we have basically 2 images of the father as an old man and the father as a young man. And the poet, of course, wants to try to remember the father as a young man when he was still vibrant. Describing the father as an old man, the poet describes his hands as being curled in like a hermit. Describing the young man, she describes those same hands as making marble say Cicero, Juno, and Laurel. These are Latin names, and it is remarkable to think that a hand would be capable of making stone say something in Latin just by its power. She describes the old man as drowning in stone dust and camels, a reference to cigarettes. Also, sparrow legs. This is a man who's aging, who's getting older. And she ends the poem on basically a request for her to remember the young man as bringing the mallet down fair on the chisel, her father's hand sweeping off the dust. So here we have this idea not only of the young man being capable, but perhaps being able to redeem the future by sweeping off the dust that would probably kill him. So that is the first poem, the first reading, and it's a great example of rendering character through image. The other poem I wanted you to read for today is God Says Yes to Me by Kaylin Hott. This is a great poem, and I'm going to read it to you, and I want you to hear in this poem a voice that is very distinct, a voice that characterizes the poet absolutely. God Says Yes to Me by Kaylin Hott. I asked God if it was okay to be melodramatic, and she said yes. I asked her if it was okay to be short, and she said, it sure is. I asked her if I could wear nail polish or not wear nail polish, and she said, honey, she calls me that sometimes. She said, you can do just exactly what you want to do. Thanks, God, I said. And is it even okay if I don't paragraph my letters? Sweet cakes, God said. Who knows where she picked that up? What I'm telling you is yes, yes, yes. Here's a poem in which the speaker dons a voice that is very distinctive, very familiar, and the god of the poem is not only a woman, but also has a very distinctive and generous voice. There's a familiarity here between poet and god that is quite striking, but also immediately gives us insights into who these characters are. You have the nervous or anxious poet, and the God who is at a certain point generous, just saying yes to everything the poet asks. So these are two great examples of providing depth to characters, one through image in the Stone Carver poem, and one through voice in the God Says Yes to Me poem. The third thing I had you read for this week is Tandolfo the Great, which is one of my favorite short stories. And that is an example of character, yes, through image, yes, character through voice, but also character through action. Stories have action, and it's one of the best ways of starting to think about writing your own short stories, is to first think of a character who wants something, and then to start coming up with either external obstacles to prevent that character from getting what they want, or internal obstacles that prevent that character from getting what they want. An example of external obstacles are two lovers who are constantly separated by different circumstances. They know they want each other, but the world keeps separating them until the very end of the story. This is romantic comedies. Examples of internal obstacles preventing characters from getting from what they want are usually what Blake calls mind-forged manacles. These are the insecurities, hang-ups, the tics and hubris that we all have in various aspects that prevent us from either recognizing what we want when we have it or preventing us from getting that thing, even though we might be able to get it if we didn't have those insecurities or hang-ups. So as you begin thinking about the sorts of paintings or images that you would give characters and then stories, or give characters and stories in the form of an essay, start to try to think about what those characters might want and what prevents those characters from getting what they want in those images. Perhaps one of the best examples of this in one of the poems that we read is Keats's On a Grecian Ode, in which the characters are actually rendered in such a way that we know very clearly what they want, but because of the format in which they are created, they will never be able to consummate their desire. And so, in some ways, we both commiserate and also are fascinated by these characters who are in a state of perpetual desire. That's it for today. I hope that this video has been helpful in you thinking about character. And as you read through these different texts, do think about how they represent character directly through image, through voice, and through action. And do take some time to think about what each of these characters want, externally, internally, and you'll have a very good understanding of character. Again, I hope all you're well. Thank you for watching.